Good morning and welcome to the podcast, which will probably be a little bit longer again today as it was yesterday. It is Wednesday, the 26th of March, and Rachel from Accounts is preparing to get her chainsaw out. I think she's hitting the House of Commons around 12 o'clock. It's now 20 past 11. So I should be wrapped up by then so I can have a look at what Rachel from Accounts is going to do to the benefit system, whether or not she is indeed going to steal the food from the 5-year-olds as well as their football, having frozen the pensioners to death and cut disability benefits. The headlines today coming out of London was that actually, as usual, the cuts that they were going to propose would not be significant enough to make up for the shortfall. So she's going to have to get someone else out there with like they're going to have 4 or 5 chainsaws. Benefits face deeper cuts as Reeve's welfare reforms fall short. That's the front. I've actually bought the Times today, the from Dunn's. I can read it online, but I wanted to buy it. So Rachel Reeves is set to announce further benefit cuts after the budget watchdog told ministers that the reforms would save 1.6 billion less than planned. So that's always a problem when you come up £1.5 billion short. The Office for Budget Responsibility rejected the Treasury's 5 billion welfare savings. Remember, that's already been spent on the hotel contract signed in 2019. Estimate in a dispute that will heighten tensions between Labour and the independent forecaster. It put the amount saved by the cuts at 3.4 billion. But I can tell you what, as you know, and as I said yesterday, and it really needs to be said again, what they will not be cutting is the billions needed to put up the illegal immigrants in the hotels. What they will not cut are the legal fees that the lawyers who seem to work night and day to keep illegal immigrants in the UK, their fees will not be cut. The illegal immigration industrial complex will not be cut at all. Your kids' meals, you can expect them on the chopping board. So it goes on. Unease among backbenchers about those cuts are likely to be intensified as the Chancellor sets out further savings of about 500 million to help balance the books. An impact assessment today will say that the poorest will be the hardest hit, obviously, not the lawyers. And senior public health experts have warned that people will die as a result of cuts to disability benefit. Yeah, not the military age men in the hotels. They won't die. It's just going to be the vulnerable, disabled, and old people. They'll die because they have to give up their benefit system because no one seems to get a hold of the border and nobody can stop the UK population creeping above 70 million by, I think, 2032. I've talked about this yesterday. It's all in the post. The figures are theirs. I'm not making this up. So good luck anyway over there with Chainsaw Rachel from Accounts. It's going to be nasty. Now, before I get to that, I'm going to flip back to adolescence, which is still going on, which is still getting the headlines. And I have a piece on that at Gript today, which should be going up very soon. It should be up by the time Rachel starts slashing through your benefits. So I noticed a comment by All Mouth and Trousers on yesterday's podcast. So I wanted to talk about that. If I could make this more interactive, I could, but I don't know anything about tech, so I can't. So he starts with, I'm sure you'll be able to get BBC. You'll just have to pay for it. More than willing to pay for it. I just want to say that now, as is only right. Having given up BBC Radio, apart from In Our Time, which is outstanding, I can honestly say I've never been happier about what I listen to, which is generally speaking podcasts. So I'm going to stop there. Look, I don't listen to BBC all the time, and I agree that they are biased. And I agree, I also listen to a lot of podcasts. However, it is still a superior product. And I'm going to tell you what happened to me this morning as an example of that. So I did the top-up shop, which came to over €100. That's the top-up shop in our house. It's absolutely outrageous. And I'm listening to the BBC in the car on the way home. And it is about, they're doing a new programme on the free market. Okay. And as an intro, it's Nick Robinson, and he's doing a whole, I'm going to pull it up here on my BBC Sounds app. That's why my head's gone down. They're doing a whole market, a whole program on the free market, which I don't think it can be really that biased about. Okay. It is the History Podcast, Invisible Hands, obviously from Adam Smith, and it is Nick Robinson presents it. So I'm listening to this. On the radio, and obviously the way they have pitched it is they are actually talking, there's a man on there and he's talking about his father and his uncle, both of whom I believe fought in the Battle of Britain, and his father actually witnessed his uncle going down. Okay, his parachute went on fire, he bails out of the plane, in the fight against the Nazis in the Battle of Britain, and he dies. But he believes that this is what inspired his father to go on, I didn't catch his name, and work in the free market economics, and it cuts to Thatcher. So I suspect he is perhaps related to somebody high up in the Thatcher administration. We shall listen to the podcast and all will be revealed. So as I was listening to this serious issue on a serious subject, I flicked over to RTE just to see if my theory was correct. And what they had on the, I think it's someone Callan show, the presenter is gay. And of course, he has on another guy who is gay, some GAA player. And the big news is that he's come out. So that's what you've got over at RTE. So you can listen to the two gay guys about how important it is to come out, or you can educate yourself on the principles of the free market. Now, I ask you, which is the more important subject? Somebody's sex life or Adam Smith? Adam Smith, please. And this all mouth and trousers is what I'm talking about. You don't know what you have until you've lost it. Now, if you wish to listen to a podcast on the free market from the Institute of Economic Affairs or the Ayn Rand Institute or whatever it might be, that, of course, is your choice. But what you definitely don't want to have to listen to and indeed pay for are the two gay guys over on RTE at 9:30 in the morning. And this is constant. If a gay guy comes out in Ireland, I tell you, it's wall-to-wall coverage. But anyway, so that's the first issue. My theory is indeed correct. So secondly, he goes on, I could argue with you about adolescence. Well, please do, after you read my piece in Gript, and the lack of coverage of certain crimes, but I won't. And I do cover that in Gript. I'll just flick through the BBC Radio Times and see what the BBC is commissioning. That isn't by chance, and that's absolutely correct. It's a deliberate decision to push what they want to happen or what they want to appear as happening. Absolutely true, all mouth and trousers. And I, in fact, wrote a whole blog on TCW maybe a year ago saying what the news doesn't cover and what people choose not to cover is just as important as what they do choose to cover. And he goes on, you've said yourself that middle-class mums will be fearful for their kids that this far-right extremism is growing in the white community and their boys will be sucked into it. That's because of the way our brains interpret things we see on TV or film. Our conscious mind knows it is make-believe, but our limbic system sees and reacts to threats as if they are real. That's why our hearts beat faster in the horror movie when the killer is chasing the female victim. I actually open with such a horror movie in Gript, so that is very telling that you have used that as an example. Our body's preparing us to run away from the threat and to have a good supply of blood in our limbs and arms in case we need to fight. And the next time we are in a situation we see in the programme, our brains will recognise the situation and again prepare us for trouble. This is why watching these programmes is bad for us. I agree. They are building up fear about young white men, putting off some young white women from dating them, and we should not be happy about that. I absolutely agree, and this is all in my very fabulous Gript piece today. I do cover this. I just want to say, in my defence, I don't watch TV. I watch hardly any TV because I simply do not have time between doing podcasts and looking after the 4 children, and my husband also travels a lot. I think there's some merit to watching a program together, especially with your spouse or your child. And if I do watch something, it is generally with the children. I do think it's a shared experience. And if you do so, you should do so without your phone. And I have reviewed certain things that you can read, like The Gilded Age. That's a good one. Nothing fearful in that. And obviously, I've got my favourite movies that are usually 20 years old, like Jerry Maguire, which I reviewed on Sunday, and you should all watch. So, but overall, I hardly watch anything because, as you say, most of it is propaganda. Nobody's interested in telling a real story these days. There's always a political message. It's usually pretty woke. Um, so and if I do watch it, it is usually to review it. So that's, I mean, the most I watch is Frasier, which I still think is the best written, comedy sitcom ever made. There's some absolutely fantastic lines in there. So you don't need to tell me this. I am just, talking about adolescence because everybody else is talking about it, and it would be very silly if I didn't. But I think most of your concerns will be addressed in my gripped piece. Now, I'm going to talk about mobile phones right at the end, okay, and why I think this adolescence has still basically terrified so many people, especially the middle class moms. And then I'm going to give out to you all about mobile phones, but I'll leave that until the end. So what I'm going to do now, so that's Chainsaw Rachel. We've done Chainsaw Rachel. We've done Adolescence again. That's all I've been talking about all week. I'm surprised you listened to any of it. But flipping back now, and I absolutely, absolutely have to cover this piece, although even sometimes I get frustrated by it. Another, talking about the illegal immigration industrial complex. So it's trending on Twitter now. So we have yet another person, another the headlines are, I really think, sum it up. Another paedophile migrant who attacked a teenage girl is allowed to stay in the UK because he's an alcoholic. So that's in the Daily Mail. It was also clearly covered by GB News. But I quite like the headlines in the Sun. You cannot beat a headline in the Sun. I'll link to it in the show notes. Perv can stay. Sick pedo who attacked teen girl allowed to stay in the UK because he's an alcoholic after appealing to woke EU court. But I don't think he's gone to Europe. Unfortunately, I don't have the court report in front of me, which I would rather have. But we'll just go on this report by In the Sun. The man, granted anonymity for his protection, argued he could not seek help for his alcoholism in Pakistan. Now, if you want, I sort of now and again like to troll people by saying Ireland should rejoin the Union. Okay, and I say that half in jest. Um, there are plenty of reasons why Ireland should join the Union. However, this is a very good example of why Ireland should not rejoin the Union, because of nonsense cases like that I honestly think they are now just doing just to annoy the law-abiding British taxpayer. So here we go, courtesy of the Sun. A pedo who attacked a teen girl was allowed to stay in the UK because he is an alcoholic. It would be funny if it were not so serious. The brute from Pakistan targeted the child after he had been released from prison for other sex crimes. So this is classic British criminal justice system. Now you've got somebody in there. He's foreign. Okay, he's already committed sex crimes. We don't know how. We've no clue as to what they are. I don't know if they're very serious or on the lighter scale, on the lighter end of the scale. But he's already done time for sex crimes. He's released, and of course, immediately then targets a teen girl. Okay, the Home Office issued him with a deportation order because even the Home Office understand that he should be deported. But of course, while jailed for a year for assaulting the teenager, so it was a sexual assault that justified at least a year in prison. He appealed it using the European Convention of Human Rights. Of course he did. He won the right to stay after a judge ruled he would face inhumane and degrading treatment in his home country due to his uncontrollable boozing. The man, granted anonymity for his protection, argued he could not seek help for his alcoholism in Pakistan, where drinking alcohol as a Muslim is illegal. He claimed jail conditions were so bad there that his deportation was a violation of his right to avoid inhumane treatment. The rights of the British taxpayer not to have the piss taken out of them clearly are neither here nor there. And he also argued he should be able to stay because he had a genuine relationship with his child in the UK, of course, even though he'd not spoken since 2022. That was rejected. The court rejected that as there was lack of evidence for his family life. But he stayed because if you deported this Pakistani raging alcoholic with an alcohol problem and also clearly is a sex pest because he's got a number of convictions, we don't know how serious, for sexual offences, you can't possibly deport him because he won't be able to receive treatment for his alcoholism in Pakistan. Like this is outrageous. I mean, this is actually outrageous. How can a country continue that is going to slash benefits to in their budget be dealing with cases like this? So think about the amount of money this guy has already had spent on him, courtesy of the taxpayer. Okay. Somehow he's in the UK. We don't really know anything in relation to his status. Has he gotten indefinite leave to remain? Did he break in the back of a lorry? No idea because I don't have the court report. He's an alcoholic. He has numerous sex offences, so he will have had a defence barrister courtesy of legal aid. Okay, legal aid for the criminal prosecutions. That's all money. He's put in prison. That's also funded by the British taxpayer. And then he'll receive legal aid to claim that him being deported would be inhumane and degrading treatment, actually relying on his alcoholism to say that. Please don't deport me because I'm an alcoholic and I will not be able to receive treatment for that in Pakistan. I will be able to receive treatment for it in the UK, courtesy of the UK taxpayer, who's also paying for my lawyer to make this outrageous argument against the UK taxpayer. And I also had previous lawyers in the broken criminal justice system who the UK taxpayer had to pay for in defending me on my previous sex crimes that I have committed against, we assume, the children of the British taxpayer. I mean, I can't add anything to that. Like, this is actually just literally taking the piss. Oh, and he's granted anonymity, of course. The man granted him anonymity for his protection because no doubt the far right thugs like me out there might get going. Argued he could not seek help for his alcoholism in Pakistan. Oh, I've already said that. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's a laugh of desperation. The Home Office last week won an appeal and the case will be heard again later this year. So what seems to have happened is that the judge has made a decision saying he shouldn't be deported, and the Home Office have now won that appeal, and then we will see what happens in the final decision. It'll be sent back to the immigration court, also funded part of the illegal immigration industrial complex. And I can tell you now, that guy isn't going anywhere. Okay. Pakistani alcoholic with a dodgy record when it comes to sex offences, he's never going to be in Pakistan again. He will be staying in the UK, courtesy of you, the British taxpayer. Tory MP Sir Alec Shelburke said the government needs to stop dangerous criminals being allowed to stay in this country. Yeah, yes, it does. I mean, you guys had a chance to do that when you were in power. You could have withdrawn from the ECHR and repealed the Human Rights Act, but you didn't do any of that. So, if you think Labour are going to do that, I suggest you get a hold of yourself. So that is yet another humiliating case for the British taxpayer. It's literally outrageous. So we've had that's another case. Now, I saw a piece, a small article in the Times in relation to this. This is a sign of the times. This is a very, very, very bad sign. We're now going to jump back to fertility rates. So as we know, fertility rates are tanking in the West because it's so difficult to actually raise a family because all of your tax money is being paid on the illegal immigration industrial complex. So North London Hospital to shut maternity unit as birth rates fall. This is very Children of Men, a film I have also seen and you should also watch. including you, all mouth and trousers. So the maternity unit at the Royal Free Hospital in North London is to close because of falling birth rates. The decision was confirmed at a meeting of the North Central London Integrated Care Board on Tuesday, at which officials cited figures showing that birth rates fell by 14% in the area in the past 5 years. And the reason why this caught my attention, dear listeners, is because I had my first child, my darling Annabelle, who is now 15, which is absolutely incredible. She's 15, and I had her at the Royal Free. The midwives there were very good. I received excellent care there. Thankfully, it was all straightforward. She was 10 days late, that I do remember, and I was almost kind of not really induced, thankfully, and I was a young whippersnapper then. I think I must have been 29. I got married when I was 28. Anyway, so I think that's really quite sad. Other hospitals will remain open, but the fact that you are now getting maternity units closing in London is a sign of the times. They'll close maternity units, and then the primary schools will start closing, and then some of the secondary schools will start closing, and then again you'll just have an island, as I said yesterday, of old people who can't escape. Russians and Saudis. Oh, and the alcoholic Pakistani guy with, I don't know why I'm laughing, the alcoholic Pakistani guy with serious record for sex offences. That's who's going to be left on that island. It's just actually too sad to think about it. Now, I think I said I was going to, I'm just at 20 minutes now, which isn't too bad. I think I'm going to finish with the mobile phones, okay? So I'm not sure why I'm doing this, but again, going back to adolescence, I think the reason why a lot of it has gotten so much attention is not just because people understand that teenagers are spending far too much time on mobile phones, but the adults are as well. And I did actually write a whole piece about this in Gript about 6 months ago, because I often get quite sick and tired of hearing people going on and on about the youth and how terrible it is, and they're always on their mobile phones. And the people who say this, the adults who say this, usually say this as they are on their own mobile phones themselves. So before we start lecturing the youth on their incessant mobile phone usage, I think it's worth asking yourself, do you spend too much time on your mobile phone? Okay. Now, I try and genuinely cut down on the mobile phone usage. So do you find yourself in the kitchen and your wife or your husband, but I know for these readership it's mainly wife, are just talking to you and you've got your head stuck in your mobile phone? Or are you in fact listening to this podcast right now while your wife's trying to talk to you? And if you are, please stop it and listen to me later. Don't do that. This is rude. If you go into any restaurant or the pub or whatever, who's on their mobile phone? It's the adults. The adults are on their mobile phone. You can barely stand in a queue for 2 minutes without reaching your mobile phones. And I have given out to you all about this before. So people should reduce their mobile phone usage. If you want to check, okay, I saw a young lad today cycling to school with his mobile phone on his hand. He had one hand on his bike and another hand on his phone. I mean, it's just dangerous. But what really annoys me is that nobody ever has any downtime. Nobody can just sit and listen to the silence or listen to the birds. And I'm not being all hippie about this. The children cannot they don't know what it's like to just have to wait for 5 minutes because they immediately reach for the mobile phone. So whatever about the right-wing thugs and the right-wing extremists, what I object to most about the mobile phones is how it is seriously destroying relations between people, both between parents and children, between spouses, okay? Number one, how it's wrecking people's attention span and how people just don't live in real life anymore. It's genuinely, you can call me a Luddite if you wish, but it's true. And there are ways you can reduce your mobile phone. So, you shouldn't have your mobile phone in the bedroom. You should be doing far more exciting things in your bedroom. If you are, stop it. Leave your mobile phone in the office or in the kitchen or wherever it might be overnight. You shouldn't have all of these apps on your mobile phone, okay? Facebook, Twitter, even Substack, LinkedIn, TikTok. not only should you have those notifications turned off, you should absolutely not have notifications on, but you shouldn't even have those apps on your phone. You should turn your phone into a phone, okay? Leave it in the office. Maybe if you can turn it into a landline, it's even better. Take all the apps off it. And if you say, well, Laura, I have to have my Facebook because my daughter's in Australia and I want to catch up with the grandchildren, or I have to have my LinkedIn, or whatever it might be, that's fine. Put all of that on your desktop. Put your desktop in a specific place in the house. And then you set aside whatever it might be, an hour or a half an hour a day. And you say, right now, this is my Facebook time. Because by doing that, then you're telling your whole body, this is my special Facebook time. And you're far more likely then to get off it after 45 minutes. However, if you were on Facebook on your phone on a couch at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to be on there for the rest of the evening. And I just think this is a poor use of your time. And it probably means you're being quite rude. I'm not saying I'm particularly great with the mobile phone. I'm such an addict that I have to turn my mobile phone off and put it in the car from about 5 o'clock onwards. And people will say, well, I won't do it if the children are somewhere and I have to keep an eye on that and someone calls me to say, come and pick me up. Okay. But in general, that's what I will do. And you will feel the urge to pick that mobile phone up. But if it's locked in your car, say, or in the shed, the urge will eventually pass. You have created what's called friction between your urge to pick up your mobile phone and actually to get on it. And we all know, you pick up your mobile phone, that's 20 minutes. That's 20 minutes gone. So I think that's the issue here. People should be looking to have more real life experiences. Don't use your mobile phone on your bike. That's obviously dangerous. And take all the apps off. Certainly take all the notifications off. Take all the apps off if you can, and try and use that time. Try and put it on a desktop. And overall, you will find you will use it less. You're being intentional about it. If you read your Substack or go on Twitter on a laptop in a certain room of the house, you are actually being far more intentional about it than if you're just scrolling on Twitter. And of course, you have to, and to encourage you to do that, then say, right, well, I have this time now. I'm not just going to pick up my phone when I'm bored. So give yourself an alternative. Either buy the actual paper and leave it on your kitchen table. And those times that you get bored, you say, no, I'm going to read my paper instead, or get a jigsaw out, or do some drawing, or whatever, or get a book out and just leave the book open. And then you will go and read your book instead of picking up your mobile phone. So that's your telling off for the day. And as I said, we will tune in now. I think in 10 minutes' time, Rachel's getting the chainsaw out, and I will see if I can. I will hopefully do another podcast later. I'm sorry, as I said, I have nothing written on Substack today because I had to do it over a Gript instead. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll try and do another podcast tomorrow. Thank you.